And also, the legal system already. This morning's committee meeting will be on live, so that the public can hear the discussion that will take place on the views on today's committee meeting. Again, good morning, everyone. And this is the Committee on Resources, Economic Development and Programs. And this committee will be discussing views on the agenda this morning. And now I would like to call to order the committee meeting on REDP at 9:69 in the morning. And it's a little bit delayed due to the flight from Tinian that brings Senator Cruz to Saipan for this meeting this morning. And I will introduce the members, and at the same time, that's a roll call for the committee. And on my right, next to me is the chairman of Fiscal Affairs Committee, Senator Coco. He's the vice chair for this committee. And on my right, in front of me is the floor leader, Senator Willis Blanc, and then Senator Liz Leonero, and Senator Carl Kinevers, and Senator Cruz. Also at this morning's meeting, we have our Secretary of DLNR, and also Mr. Chris Ogo. Motion to adopt today's agenda. Any second? It's been moved and seconded to adopt today's agenda. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Today's agenda is hereby adopted. Public hearing. Anyone in the gallery would like to make comments on today's on the items on today's agenda? Since no one in the gallery for public comment, we'll move on to item 5, old business. Since none, we'll move to item 6, new business. And we'll first discuss the referred legislation, which is A1, Senate Bill number 20-20, to establish the Hunting Act of 2021 for the Commonwealth and for other purposes, authored by Senator Frank Cruz. And we requested for comments on this bill. And we received 2 comments from one from the Office of the Attorney General and Department of Lands and Natural Resources Secretary. So this morning we invited the Secretary of Lands and Natural Resources, and also Mr. Ogo requested if he can attend this morning's hearing, because he would also like to comment on the bill. So before we get into I would ask the Secretary of DLNR, Mr. Benavente, to provide us his comments, because if this is enacted into law, it will be responsibility to enforce the law. So, no objections from the members. Secretary, would you proceed in providing their comments to Senate Bill 22-20?
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and the honorable members of this RADC committee. My name is Tony Benedetti. I'm the secretary for the LNR. As you know, I did submit a comment on March 19, 2021, in regards to the House Senate Bill 20-22. And Mr. Chairman and members, as you know, attached with this comment is also an opinion by the Attorney General. And with the opinion by the Attorney General, it identifies that the regulation in place that presently under Division of Fiscal and PLNR has that authority to initiate amendments to the regulations. And by implementing this through so-called legislation, I think the proper way is to make the agency initiate this new amendment and comply with the proposed legislation as what is in front of us under Senate Bill 20-22-20. For reason that the AG has recommended certain information, inquiring the reason behind this new amendments to change or to amend the regulation to place certain days to add an additional time or additional month of hunting within 1 year. And due to in fact, there's a letter from Senator Terry Santos also inquiring to increase or extend the hunting season. And I did mention that we will work on it, and we're still working on it because for a reason that we hired a deer biologist, and especially in Rhoda, and she's been there about 6 months or 4 or 5 months already. And she has done a tremendous job in going out and identifying the areas of population of the deer. And it seems that the abundance of deer in Rhoda has exceeded over 2,000. And that's just the findings. And I believe the combined might be in the savanna and outskirts of the savanna area. So at present, right now that she's going out, doing some spotlight, we did purchase 30 cameras for nighttime. So she places it out in various locations, and we're taking photos as these deer pass by and all that. So there's 30 areas on 1 month, 30 areas on another month, and it's constant. So these are data, information that we collect and adhere to that data, the information of what's there really. And based on her report, it was more of a discussion. And the report, I'm waiting for the report. There is a lot of females sandboarders. It seems that the females are exceeding the male population. But there's an abundant amount of deer population in Rhoda, not considering here in Saipan. So the bill addresses island-wide, throughout the islands of the first, second, third. I'd like to recommend that maybe we can address this to the Rhoda, the first senatorial only, for reason that I think the difference between here and Rhoda is the ongoing abundancy or the findings of the amount of deer population. But here in Saipan, I don't believe that's in the numbers. So we don't want to change what's there. We have that regulation in place for Saipan, for the third senatorial, and we don't want to have an additional date. I think the proper way is just let it stay because there's a hunting season for that date, and that's 3 months, September 1st to November 30. So that's 3 months of hunting allowable here in the senatorial. For Rhoda, it's the same date, but we can add a different date for Rhoda, and we have to be mindful too on adding that date because we want to know, as a deer biologist, you would know when is the breeding and when is the birthing of these sandboarders. We don't want to hunt when the female sandbar deers are, having their pregnancy on that time. So we want to make sure that, I think for knowledge, it's always been January, February is almost like the cows for the deers. So I think that might be something that we can say April, May, June might be, or March, April, May might be a good sufficient added extended days for that hunting season for Rona, and allowing female sandbars, deers to be hunted as well. And possibly, I know that you know that the permit right now is only $10 per one deer. I think we can increase that amount to help the wildlife conservation in Rona to do their work and get some sufficient funding. That's not a problem to increase the funding and the fees and allow that new permit to be issued, be it $25 or $20 at least for the month of March to May, and then September to November, similar of $20. That's adding up. A collection. It depends on how many hunters are there. And considering right now, knowing that at one point also there was former director or resident director, I think Mr. Nick Sokso, on a public hearing, stated that why have another hunting season when truly Rona every day is hunting season. So, I'm just saying that we can allow that. It's visible. We can say that the hunting season is there, September to 30, but if you go now to Rona, I'm pretty sure that there's dry meat that they'll have. And what I'm hearing, seeing is different. Seeing is believing, but hearing is, you can't just say that you heard it and you believe it. But the point of this is our agency can amend this, can allow this to be established, provided that we can adjust to the proposed regulation, the amendments, and not allow for some of Saipan, and maybe if the second senatorial wants to allow that, at least give it an opportunity. I know that at one point, deer was taken from Rona, I think, to Tinian to be placed in an area by the late Senator San Nicolas, like Mayor San Nicolas. And eventually, a lot of them maybe have multiplied for now. And if so be the case that it has multiplied, we don't know for data and information, but maybe we can get that information and see how abundant it is. I've heard that they have, hunt shot a deer in Tinian, so I believe they're there already, even from the time that it was properly fenced with boats on that area. But now that the fence have fallen apart, I think they have spread out more into the area. And believe me, these deers are abundant to have the sufficient food source to expand and multiply. So same as Tinian and more. So we can do that, Mr. Chairman and members. We can place this regulation. All we have to do is amend it, and amend it to the point for the third senatorial district. If that's okay with you, I highly recommend that we can table this bill and work expeditiously to amend the regulation and move on. I know that times are hard where the letter stated that Senator Santos was the food source is one of this COVID pandemic. I think the public euthanasia hunting season provides more of the food source for the people of Rona. So again, we can't allow this for any commercial, but strictly for personal consumption. So I ask that the committee take a look at it and let us address it through regulation, and it's a simple process, providing the information and the reports from the air biologists, the data collected, and also required is the damages that this deer has caused within the farmers of Rhode. So those are the required information that the Attorney General has recommended to get this information. So as we speak, some data are going out to farmers and its root crops. So that we will connect and address this, and we will have a problem with ensuring the amendment to take place. So with that said, thank you, Chair.
I would allow Mr. Ogo to make his comments, and then we'll open the floor for the members to ask questions if there's any. Go ahead, Mr. Ogo.
Since no Chairman and Parandul na member ST na Guma, isang hilok, wow si Crispin Maglonia Ogo. Gumay dito, really, no, cuenta di Roman Tudela Jr. Pudas ST na asunto i Senate Bill 22-20. No Indigenous Affairs Office, the February 5th, 2021, no umano to papa para luta pa by presenta ikatan resident executive Tudela para mayor luta the guinaw na haani di putsi para by fan virtual meetings and director of Fish and Wildlife guest Senyor Manny Pangilinan sinunbadgo si Director Tudela Gualden si Mayor Efren Atali mataas naman po esti na asunto po esti hunting no permit and the seasonal no parewa binodus and azuzo. The presentation Indigenous Affairs guat to the at Cadi no then paraguat to the Fish and Wildlife na matui tempo sa manggagagaw itaw-taw yuta no asilyo wili di bandaning kano the hofahun na man sustente ni siya para koni do inisisidan niya the ukatgano na informasyon wato gas director Tudela na estado no luta di November na mes the ginedito na tempo sigin kalkula taymano para sa ito mominesti na asunto indisidi na parabain quintusi Fish and Wildlife sa incomprendi na sinyesti na asunto masagba through administratively pues intugi kata si Director Manny Pangilinan the no gofmaguf sa finonya si Director Pangilinan we can work on this lo necesaryo contento e akadi dan anunadan contento e akadi no tana para benagwa public hearing sa luta between the Fish and Wildlife, Indigenous Affairs and the Mayor's Office. Esteno in place siya na aksyon lo anaubiro tati ginin luta sa sinimbago gofza westio matan hofa siya no ibu na akto man ma-introduce isang papa na guma dan sa nilo Aneu tatay Senate do repara di Hunting Act na do review liko Santa Maria sa esta no guaha aktu no Senator Cruz introduce the hami manggayyan mambasitan the sige sa manmatotson with the Fish and Wildlife so inamin opisina ni invited ni Senate Clerk no mano nagayges tinabyo pos American wato Senator Justo inatumo si Senator na gwa interes niya Indigenous Affairs por este asunto na para nesta zan mamin pa ben natumo hando naman natututsong gipresenti zan ni Fish and Wildlife Mayor of Rhoda na para tanagwa patatso este na regulation administratively pues gumay dito in cuenta di Roman Tudela Jr. Resident Executive Indigenous Affairs pa by 5 este na komite kausinya ni susteni este na akto the Nayam Tansa, na oficina ni Toto Tono, the ni Fish and Wildlife, the ni Akadigi the Luta, the Bifanatotsu, the Tanatsadik Estin o Mariglania. Sa intensyon niya si Roman is dinansya hafa sasangan si Secretary Benavente na i-deo ini pratababa extra na no i-hunting season na no the polo the Benanel Secretary dispensa sa no TNCC kopya lo si Director Pangilinan i-diputsi no is a mommy point of contact. Puseno alin no gumayo gini pabay tuli mensay niya i-resident executive na no in atutuka este na asunto gi para kuato gi Fish and Wildlife for to do this administratively. Lo sinya by to mando no na komite ko para ni komo i-finalization niya si Secretary Benavente the Indigenous Affairs na Mela the Bencheguin administratively, the Kosakit Baba no Bensili Loke para mena ni Tautoluta no na inasu para uwa public hearing is on the recommendation si Director Pangilinan. Jesus Mase. On a personal level, Zawa de pabay from a comment put i Senate Bill 22-20 sa popot tayo now, then look is the Senate Bill 2231. Thank you.
Citizens Masi, Mr. Ogu. Now, I open the floor for the members to ask any questions if they have or comments to Secretary Benavente, and perhaps any additional information that Mr. Ogu and the Indigenous Affairs are working on with the respective mayors may do so. Senator Sablan.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, Secretary Benavente and Mr. Ogu. Thank you for your comments on the Senate legislation, Senate Bill number 22-20. I want to touch on the comments by the Secretary of the LNR. It's comforting na guano deer biologists, especially in the island of Roda, to gather that data before any decisions are made to change the administrative regulations of the LNR to increase or to extend the hunting period there. I wanted to ask if because the legislation does not only cover the first senatorial district, but it actually has reference to the second and third senatorial district. My first question is, will the deer biologist be extending her work to the other senatorial districts for data collection? And also, is there any data collection because the Senate Bill number 22-20 is covering not only the sandbar deer, but also referencing the coconut crab and also the Philippine turtle dove and land crabs as well, wild goats, wild pigs. Has there been data collected on the other species that is said in the legislation? So just those two questions, Mr. Chairman, to our good Secretary of the LNR. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sablan. With the deer biologist is for 1 year, and through federal funding that we've applied, we hope to have an additional an extension on that grant and allowing us to continue also the services that we can send this biologist to Kenya and here in Saipan as well. We don't know yet, but normally the grant is from October to September, and maybe by the end of the third week or the end of the fourth quarter, we might get some words based on and we did submit another grant, but it's getting approved is the question. So if the grant is approved for an additional extension, then we will have that funding for her to allow the survey at least in both Tinian and Saipan as well. For the other question in mind that you mentioned regarding the turtle doves and all that, yes, there's an abundance of that. And I don't see, for that to extent. We do have a hunting season for that, but with permits as well. All that, I mean, it's just getting information. We see the increase of that through, you see an abundance of our land crabs crawling. So I don't know about that. We do kind of have an abundance of that. Comments that we can get informations on other islands for the first and second, meaning that we can allow to the extent of increasing or extending the hunting season. But I think for SACPAR that we limit to only one particular island for now, and that's the island of Rota. And for the wild goat, pigs, and cows, believe me, they say it's open season, but nobody claims their cows or their pigs and goats that are ferals or wild out in the jungle. So that's not a problem to have that hunting season available, and it is open. So extending it is not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. So clarified, Chairman. Just wanted to get the information on data, which is before any decision are made. Collection, which is before any decision are made. Collection of data on all the species. This is good, and I'm happy that it's being done now. So clarify on the question. Thank you, Mr.
Senator Dilongura.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Mr. President and Mr. Ogo. It's good to see you both gentlemen. It's been a while. Similarly, I'm very interested in following data, so I'm actually trying to download the CNMI Statistical Yearbook full report from the CNMI Department of Commerce, but I'm not successful in trying to download that report. So my question is, I'm wondering if that particular data from your department is being shared or collected also by the CNMI Department of Commerce, considering that by law, they are supposed to collect all sorts of data for the Commonwealth. And even if you're federally funded, that all of this particular information needs to be given over to the Department of Commerce Statistical Division so that anybody can access that kind of information. So I was wondering if that particular data set is also shared to the Department of Commerce Statistical Division. I'm very interested in knowing, you mentioned Saipan and Tinian, and how a deer was taken from Rota to populate the Tinian municipality. Living on Saipan is always nice to see a deer every now and then. Living on Saipan is always nice to see a deer every now and then. I myself, I see that every now and then. I get lucky, which is it's a beautiful thing. But I think it's important too to know exactly what is our population here on Saipan, respect the deer, population. So can you share that with us, please?
Yes, I'll try and work on the information on the data regarding the fees. Now, the only resources that we can work on the information on the data regarding the fees. Now, the only resources that we can collect our data through the hunting license. So the hunting fees require individuals coming in purchasing the $10. Those are very limited. Believe me, the data that we have based on each respective senatorial districts are really low. And the information, we provide this information also to the federals for this granting under the Joint Enforcement Act. So we provide information that provide us these grants for the enforcement to conduct their wildlife protections. So they get funding. So we have a number of an account for each senatorial district, like 60-45 for this island, 60-46, I think, for Tinian, and 60-47. I'm not too clear about the number, but based on every year hunting season, it seems that the number of collected license paid by hunters to hunt deer in Rota is always below the records of 20, but we can get that information from a couple of years, maybe a 3-year data to provide you that information. So it's understandable that the hunting permit issued is almost maybe less than 20. Sometimes from here, hunters will go from here, but you're required to have a gun license. So in Rota, it's always limited to the numbers of hunting issued, the permits, when they pay the $10. Same wise in Tinian. It's very limited, and then the numbers are more. But in Tinian right now are provided. But even here in Saipan, it's almost nobody is very limited, maybe less than 10 in a year to hunt deer in Saipan from September to December, November 30. And someone in Rota, it's from September that they apply for the hunting permit. But again, it's less than 20. But the abundance of deer being hunted is more than 20 and more than possible 100. So there's that difference. But we would have that data to provide you, Senator, in terms of the, there's that difference. But we would have that data to provide you, Senator, in terms of the 3-year of each senatorial district as to their fees by the permit issued for the hunting season.
Just for clarification, I'm more interested in the deer population data. The fees is appreciated. I mean, that's generally speaking, we can look at the revenue collected, right? I did know, I heard earlier about $10 per deer, or per permit, I believe. So I'm wondering on the permits, like how many heads are allowed? I'm trying to understand it properly because in the US, for example, when they go out hunting for alligators, you can only take so many heads, right? So I'm wondering like how many heads per permit, or is that what you call it, a head? Like every permit will require you one deer only, one head?
And it has to be a buck. Has to be a male deer.
Okay.
No female. So yeah, and it's only once allowed for your hunting permit. Only one deer.
And also to further my inquiry, so when a hunter goes out and hunts for the deer or a buck, do they come and an official wildlife agent is there to wait and bring the buck over to show the evidence that you only caught one buck, or anyone can just get a permit, go hunt in the bushes in the woods and just go shoot down a buck and take it home?
That's in the regulation. That's the required rule process. But at times, they tend to have that permit, but sometimes they do not go and check with the conservation officers who are showing their cats.
So currently in the current regulations, it does not require a hunter who has a permit to come back to the agency to show the evidence that they only have one buck that they shot.
It's required to show that.
It is required, but is that something that is done consistently?
No.
Or sporadically, or every once in a blue moon?
No.
So it's not being consistent. So in other words, enforcement is an issue.
Yes.
Is that something that we could work on?
I believe so.
Okay,
Yes.
fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. So yeah, I'm very interested in the data, the population. I know you said 2,000 perhaps on Rota, but there's no certainty, It's good to know that, because if we're looking at administratively changing regulations, and I read your comments. I do appreciate the comments, actually. It talks about special hunting permits as well. I read for the whole thing, and I did some highlights on some key points. And this is what I appreciate in terms of comments, not just a letterhead comment that say, there's nothing, something like, Senate Bill 22-20 does not present any legal issues. I'm not interested in looking at things like that. I'm more into the details, which I do want to thank you for providing this, because I saw that you requested for a much more deeper guidance from the Attorney General's office, and the Assistant AG provided you all of the recommendations and to do it administratively. So again, and that was from Attorney Precious Boone that signed off on the letter. So I'm just going to go back again to the data sets. I'm very interested if that goes to Commerce, because I'm one person that loves to look at data sets, and my source of data is the Commerce Department. It really does not, in my opinion, for every government entity to maintain their own data set. That's fine for the grantor agency, the federal grantor. But with respect to the public law that we have in the state, the Department of Commerce is supposed to be the entity to be receiving all of these data information, whether it's labor, whether it's, the deer, whether it's the turtles and things like that, so that we know exactly how much we have in terms of our wildlife inventory. I think that's a great information to have at Department of Commerce. Thank you.
So, right now, we do not have, but it's from our deer biologist providing, verbal information as to what she predicts the numbers based on her, outreach new or, going out in the nighttime and her cameras. So her prediction right now is over 2,000. So the exact data would still come. She still has some job to do, and we'll get that information based on our report, and we'll provide you that report from Anna Stoudemire, our deer biologist in Oregon. Thank you.
Any other senators? Senator King Neighbors?
Thank you, Chairman. My question was asked by.
Go ahead, Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, is there any promulgation of rules and regulation that is imposed on Rhode Island or not? That is imposed on Rhode Island or not to go there? In regards to not to go there? In regards to boarding vessels that are coming from that island, boarding vessels that are coming from that island, just a clarification. Just a clarification, whether this is an accurate information that I'm getting. Vessels that are coming from Northern Ireland are allowed by Fish and Wildlife to be board from the board before entering Saipan, go rather than entering Tinian or Saipan, another apply the same rules and regulation on that particular item. Is that correct?
I'll try and answer your question. As for Northern Ireland, sir, Senator, in regards to the Northern Ireland, we have the policy that any vessel that goes up north, considering the abundance of threatened or endangered species, the requirement is for every return, the conservation must or subject to search the vessel. This basically allows to check if there's any threatened or endangered species within that vessel. That's being done prior to me coming in, and I believe it's in the regulation, and I can verify that with you, sir. Now for Goat Island, I believe it's more or less that the permit is under the control of the mayor. If I'm not mistaken, that's under the Constitution. The mayor has an authority to allow for boats, be it from Saipan, to allow that boat to go to Tinian, to Goat Island, with respect of what purpose that the entry for the Goat Island will be. Is it for hunting no goat? Then by all means, it's also allowed the issue permit from the mayor's office, if I'm not mistaken. But other than that, I know that there's a lot of wildlife biologists right now that are being assigned to Goat Island for a survey of the bat caves, so the cave bats and the swiftlets. Again, for your question in mind as to the inspection of Goat Island, vessels leaving Goat Island, returning Union, Saipan, it's not in our regulation, but I would verify if it does so, then we will require to ensure that the conservation are there as well to search that vessel. So my understanding, there's nothing in place.
So, at this time, it's not required to board the vessel,
No, sir.
just from the Northern Island to Site.
Beside that. And also, if Northern Island direct to Tingin, the conservation is required.
Because we all understand there's also endangered species on that particular area, right? But you don't have to, by your regulation, to board that.
Well, yes, it's not in place because I believe more of the constitution directs Rhode Island to the mayor of.
Yeah, the authority for the mayor is just for entry permit, but not for any other fish and wildlife regulation.
So I
Point
would
is-
verify.
That's the reason why I'm coming up with a legislation to be more specific in enforcing through legislation. But anyway, on another issue, I know that you mentioned earlier in regard to somebody there in Tinian. They start to multiply, but I'm very concerned because it's been a couple of years since there is a deer that are multiplying from either from residents there that are went wild and they start multiplying, but I'm very concerned about hunters that are hunting down somebody there, and I'm hearing that almost every week there's a catch, and I'm very concerned about those deers that sooner or later will be gone because there's no control or whether or not to be regulated, because I'm expecting fish and wildlife to come out and regulate it. But there's no regulation now imposed on Kenya to protect those of them from extinction. So I understand your sentiment and your opposing the legislation, but even with fishing area, the sunset provision on those from beaches are already expired, and it's been almost 8 years or a little bit less than 8 years that has been expired, and none has been done to protect not only the fish in the front but for safety of swimmers. Anybody can fish at the front beaches, even though it's a tourist populated area. There's nothing enforcement, there's nothing regulation. So I hope that been addressed soon, because I know also that I amend that area that have been restricted, opening the both east and west area, but not the particular from Marina to Tasomia. But that sunset provision is expired, and like I said, it's been a couple of years, and there's nothing been done by Fish and Wildlife, whether or not that one can be closed. I just wanna know and understand from Fish and Wildlife whether or not is that important to close, or we'll just leave it as it is.
Thank you, Senator. In regards to that, I would have to inquire the information from the Director of Fish and Wildlife and see, as you stated, sunset provision, if it's in the marine conservation area, it's designated marine conservation area, I believe there should not be a sunset provision. It should stay that it is a marine conservation area and no fishing is allowed within that area. Similar to what we have in Saipan, around from next to Manigaw and the inner lagoon area and on the outer side of the Manigaw, and restriction from any fishing activities. But there is a law now that allows for tourists to conduct certain new activities like snorkeling and all the other areas provided, but no fishing allowed, but with a fee. So tourists can go and do some snorkeling and at the same time pay a fee for that and generate revenue for the conservation area through Tinian.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. This is, I have raised this concern since the now Lieutenant Governor. So if we have to regulate it again, but like I said, no response. And that's concerns, that's my concern on that. And because almost every day we see during the evening time, we see fishermen fishing in that area, and like I said, even during daytime. And I believe that poses a risk on swimmers in that area. And on another concern in regards to fees, I remember one public hearing that we conducted in Tinian, and the recommending was that we noticed that that fees that have been collected supposed to be, according to Manning, supposedly it will be a revolving fund type of collection for the particular senatorial district. But representing from here, I have no knowledge whether or not that particular fee should be going to them, and they have no idea what that no fees, no is that until that very public hearing that we to the respective department that is collecting under Fish and Wildlife. So that's why I came out with a regulation that will be very specific and clear as to where the money should go. If it's not going to the appropriate department, then I think I'm not trying to disrespect your management, but I think it's my obligation also to find ways how we can, enforce this, rather than that, knowing it later that should go to that respective island for the operation, but it's not. I don't know if you're aware of that, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Senator. Before I go that's the mandatory reporting, sir. That's the law now. That's former Senator, I think 17, that's 8 and 9 from Secretary Yuo. But going back to the deer in Tinian, please allow us to have our deer biologists conduct the survey as well for Tinian, and then from there we can maybe look at the opportunity to allow that hunting season. If so be that the findings right now is there is an abundant deer. Actually, we don't know that it's maybe visible by the Tinian folks, but maybe the best thing is to allow a deer monitor individual biologist to do that survey, get that information data, and then we can see, because what we're doing in Rota is effective to consider that season, extending the season, and we want to do the same that you request for Tinian as well, sir. Now, in regards to the fish collection, these are the mandatory reporting that any fish or reef fish requires all businesses to submit a report, and this is under the Fish and Wildlife. It's still in process right now, so Senator, as we all speak. It's been long overdue, and the regulation is in place. The process of getting the businesses to fill out the forms and individual, and please note that this strictly is only for commercial fishing. So there's a fee to it, and it goes to the respective senatorial district. So those fees that the restaurants, hotels that will buy fish has to report those to report those. It's a mandatory reporting of all fish catch. And this information, so there's a fee, I believe $25, and all of this collection, commercial fishermen has to get a permit and all that. So all of this money collected and the information is for data. The data is what we need. How many pelagic fish have been caught, they're going directly and not reporting. We've been doing that here, but we still, getting ready as well. That's for UNICEF and Rhode Island. And as we speak, we're looking at an opportunity to try and maybe get somebody for a data person. And we've been trying to do that, to be in Tinian and be as one in Rhode Island, to start working on this information, forums to get these reports. So we know what amount of fish is being caught pelagic in Rhode Island, and bottom fish and reef fish, and get really the information, the data that, are we still in abundance of parrot fish? Are we still in abundance or if the catches are going down? So these are data that we need to address between our islands. I don't see a problem up in north, but, I think, as you know, a lot of our fishermen here in Saipan are either, taking their boats and heading to Tinian or somewhere else where they're going to get an abundance. So all this information is very important that we try and get, and that again, that's the mandatory reporting law, and we like to initiate that as soon as possible. It's been sitting down since public law. I think it's public law 17 as 89, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a very important law that we need to address, and Fish and Wildlife is working on it. I can say, but it needs to start moving forward on this. Thank you, Senator.
I'll come back for the second round. And the Vice Chairman, you said that.
Just quickly.
May I remind everyone to please focus on the legislation, the discussion on the legislation, so that we can complete the discussion on the legislation. And not anything else to this legislation. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Formula or a competitive grant. And secondly, it's not really a question, but may I encourage your office to please work with the Sinaloa Department of Commerce, the Statistics Division, to help you design your data collection instrument, because they are the experts of the CNMI, so they can work hand in hand with the federal officials so that whatever data you need to collect, utilize their expertise so that help you move faster in what you're trying to collect. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And yes, competitive.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Secretary. I just want to find out from you and the division that, assuming that, Senate Bill 22-20 for its passage, what impact would it cause the operation of Fish and Wildlife that will impede their present operation using the public regulation?
Thank you, Senator. With the passing of this bill, to move forward and pass the bill, I see it as an obligation again that our division, Fish and Wildlife, must adhere to. So knowing that this arrangement of fees again does not really specify if the increase of fees should increase more other than the existing $10 to be exactly still in place. And again, somewhat to, I hope I'm in that right direction, Senator. Am I addressing the right?
No, with the present regulation that you have on hand, and with this pending legislation, is there any wildlife for your department see they will not work alongside each other?
Yes, sir. I think we can work.
Okay, so in essence, you're supporting also If you 20, that's 22, or 22, that's 20.
In a sense,
But if this bill will move forward, you would like to see that this legislation give the flexibility also to Philippine Wildlife to promulgate rules and regulation accordingly to the hunting season that is being written down in this legislation.
yes, the hunting season in this regulation addresses additional time frame or additional months. And I agree, I kind of addressed this with former Senator Terry Santos to have that open season. But again, for all three senatorial, Senator, I believe we should hold on to the two senatorial and address the one senatorial.
So if this legislation provides you that authority and to further period of time for the Wildlife to make the same regulation as for RODA, would that be sufficient for you to work with this legislation?
The regulation is there. We just amend it again to comply with the law.
So in essence, this legislation will not have any meaningful impact as to what you're doing presently with the regulation.
No, sir.
Okay, so glad to hear that, Mr. Secretary, that the present regulation is in place and it's working for the Division of Fish and Wildlife.
Yes, yes, it is.
Now, in terms of fee, we have identified in this legislation various kinds of hunting seasons, and does Fish and Wildlife regulation impose different fees on every hunting season of species?
Yes, there is different fees to each category of permit. So deer is different, dove is different, Talazza is different, and all the others. Some are similar, but again, the difference is there. So increasing to extend and allow for the sandbar. I think with the abundant, why allow one, allow two, and increase the fee? So generate more revenue for.
So have you considered that also applying or to put in that regulation to increase the harvesting of sandbar deer from 1 to 2?
Very much, sir. We're looking at allowing the hunter to also include a sandbar female deer.
Okay, so the fee that you are saying that it's very low, is there any plan from the office to increase the fee for each of these hunting species when their season is presently legal?
Yes, Senator. We don't want to put a hardship to the people who that this is for personal consumption.
Well, I understand that, no, Secretary, but let us not get ourselves into something that we pay $10, okay, to go and hunt. But how many of us know that whatever they catch, they are selling those deer?
I believe that's rightly said.
So there's really a difference, like when you go out to hunt with $10 license fee, harvest the deer, and then turn around, not really using it for food, okay? But you're using it to sell to your friends or to your regular customer. And you may not believe that the price of deer when they try to sell you also depends on who's buying. If you have little financial space, they will give you the rising sun price. But if you're not really and they're desperate need, they'll just give you below price. So I guess the need to increase the fee also as a revolver for the enforcement needs, I've seen and I've heard, especially from resource enforcement, that they lack this, they lack that. But if this fee can be placed under revolving for the usage of the operation, maybe that will alleviate also the difficulty of enforcing the law. Now, on the other note, Mr. Secretary, if the biologist on there really comes up positively that wrote that have exceeded the number, what is your take to promulgate regulation for a special high-end sports deer hunting?
Thank you, Senator. I think that was something in mind that I'd like to foresee for a possibility for special, what they call a special sports hunting. And the price for that I would like to see is, maybe implementing somewhere around 2,000 for one individual, for one deer, a male. And that's my take is for that one person only. And you only allow maybe a maximum of 20 deers to be hunted in a certain time. And it's someone that you issue this permit, and either you pay for it and there's no refundable. And it allows for high hunters that wants to have that sport of hunting. And I consider a good amount of money, be it some hunters like the challenge of shooting it is not a problem, but some challenges are also within the bow and arrow. So there's the difference of that. The challenge of bow and arrow maybe can be $1,000, and then hunting with a rifle is just 2,000. But again, you limit the number and allow this special hunting season to be granted. And again, with that amount, then we can work to allow more, be it that we can issue the regulation and possibly have something for RODA, increase more funding, and we can go more. I mean, high individuals that we can come over to the island and fly on their own private jet and pay as much as what they want, pay a guide and show them all their ways to, and have this hunting period as no special.
The reason why I asked you that, Secretary, because I just heard you that you are nearing to promulgate a regulation to include the female deer to be caught as well, right?
Yes.
So, but based on the statistics that the deer biology will come and report, what number that will exceed to ensure the legal hunting for female summer deer?
If we allow within this season to have 3 months in the earlier part of the year, and then the 3 months again on the later part of the year, and increase it to 2, I don't see the changes, because right now it's almost like you have 200 heads of female, or let's say maybe 500 heads of female, and giving birth to this babies of sandbar deers. You increase twice, possibly increasing the abundance 500 times, and then the next stage again. And again, it increases. So even though the number of permits allowed for 2 deers is basically very limited to have a.
So what I'm trying to get to is what number that will stop the hunting if, for example, we have 2,000 and say we need to have and maintain a 1,000 heads. any excess of that, that is open for hunting. But how do we keep track with the accountability of the deer once we open that? Does your office have the manpower to continue to take accountability on what was caught and how many are remaining?
Well, right now, honestly, that's really low. I mean, the reports are not coming in to the point that we issue 20 hunting permits, and maybe out of that 20, only 3 to 4 submitted, provided the carcass there saying we hunt, we're good. So the rest, either they go to the end part, or some would say they hunt in the beginning, then they lose their privileges, so they wait to the very end of the hunting season. I'm just saying that we can, if we allow more manpower these and have the people acknowledge the report they catch to determine if the number of species is really being reduced. But we know for a fact, Senator, that Rona, even without the hunting season, deer is being caught. So will we determine right now? Our deer biologist said it's there around over 2,000, and the ongoing hunting is, as we speak, might be there constantly from January to December. But during the hunting, that we amend the regulation to have 2 in place. Will that determine reduction? Maybe if reporting says that the limit that you want to be 1,000, it's still a question as to how we're going to enforce it. Is something that we need the people's support to address that as well.
Okay, that's good. So in this regulation, have you considered off-season, for example, okay? Have you considered the farmer's concern about deer coming in during off-season, damaging their root crops? Have you considered to authorize farmers to take down those deer that are coming in and, smashing all their root crops?
I've talked to a couple of farmers, and they are very disappointed with nothing being done by our staff that are supposedly been reported and saying that the root crops are constantly being destroyed by the deer, and continuous on that situation. They get the report, but the timing is somewhat different. But we try to work to see how we can work with the farmer on that one, provided that is it one deer exact that is destroying? Is it more? And we believe there might be more than one that comes to the farmers who crops and does the destruction. So for the farmers to eliminate all, let's say 5 of them, it's not proper, but at least we'll try and maybe just scare them off with something. But we'll try and work a regulation with that, Senator, and see how we can best have the farmers protect their root crops in harvesting and not having destruction by these samples.
So maybe one way that you can consider that, if it's going to be a regulation that any farmer reporting damages as caused by the deer, that perhaps a representative from Peace and Wildlife will just visit the farm place and witness the damage, and then that's how probably you guys can authorize, the shooting of these deer that's coming into their place. Secretary, if you find 5 deer, in your field of taro, watermelon, or whatever, I'm not going to shoot only one, because if I shoot only one, the other 4 will come back again. So what do I do with the 5 that I found in my taro patch, my sweet potato taro patch, how would I address and here, curtail the damage, further damage as a result of only shooting one day?
For me, I would issue a permit to the farmer and says, get a permit and let's try and clear that.
So I just put this out so that, if it's gonna be done by regulation, that this, can be considered an alternative ways to help protect if we're concerned about the farmers as well. So I do not believe that a farmer with a gun find 5 deer in his taco patch or sweet potato patch that he would only shoot one. I would not believe that, so maybe it's a good thing that you consider how you work on that regulation, whether if you knock down 5 deer, that you may consider giving one at least to the senior citizen, to help them also for their food supply in the aging center.
I agree. And not only one, sir, maybe two.
So those are the areas there, and then I like to see also that in the regulation that the timing of mating is very important for hunting, versus hunting night, the period of mating.
Yeah.
That should be avoided. And until such time that, the birthing of a young somebody,
Yes, sir.
So we've seen hunters that just shoot deer because they look so shiny and fat, but little did they know that they are pregnant. And when you're pregnant, when the deer is pregnant and they see shiny, the fur, no? And so looking at it, said, that's a good mantika and there's to barbecue, so you just shoot it. Not knowing that it's about to deliver already. Okay, that's all, Mr. Chairman. I will see how this legislation will move forward with the comments that everyone shared with the secretary.
Thank you, Vice. Can I have my turn now to ask questions?
Please.
Mr. Secretary, I think Senator Leong Guerrero de Leong Guerrero kind of asked this question on the data. Do you take inventories of the crabs? How many crabs do we have inside them for hunting purposes? Is that done on an annual basis or every quarter, or the same as the other wildlife? You mentioned first the deer, then the turtle dove, and then the wild goats, pigs, and cows. Do you take inventories of these animals in terms of population, and how often do you take inventories?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your question. Nothing's been done on that one. Nothing at all. In fact, it was my discussion with the Endangered Species Program Manager for the deer biologist to the program, to Senator's letter requesting to have another season, allowing that opportunity to hire deer biologists. But with in mind of all this other coconut crab monitor or data information, nothing to my knowledge has been reported or conducted by any of the wildlife section, be it from the land crab, goats, even in Tinian as well. I don't know if there's data information for that, or here if it's open season, because there's goats that I've seen, out in the jungle area. Wild pigs, there are abundant in Tanapofu, in fact near my father-in-law's farm, but data-wise as to who catches them and hunts them, data information to the population being it exceeding or increasing is something that nothing is being done at Fish and Wildlife.
Is there a regulation requiring Fish and Wildlife Division to do an inventory of the wildlife that are permitted for hunting on an annual basis. And we have a regulation that requires them to do inventories of these wildlife animals. I think that's very important because it's very difficult to continue to open the season or open an additional season when there's no data indicating that there's an abundance of crabs in Tanombek and you can catch as many as 50 because there's a lot per season. Or maybe we need to open another season for crabs because we have so many crabs already running around. I think those data information are very important in determining